All right, and we do see Raja playing Rakdos Reanimator against Catra playing Mono Blue 8 cast. And this matchup, I would have to imagine. I was going to say typically Faithless Raja, but there are 4 copies of Force of Will in Catra's deck. So who do you like here in this matchup?
It's hard for me to bet against Raja to begin with. And I also like Raja's deck a lot more than the 8-cast deck. When I first saw the 8-cast deck, I was very impressed. And then the more I played against it, the more kind of like it was just Eldrazi stompy with some draw spells and Force of Will, which is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of that. But I think I like Reanimator more in this sort of matchup. And it is open deckless. We might see some turn 1, Chalice of the Void action here. But I'm going to pick Raja. What about you?
I think it's pretty close. We do see that Catra does have, access to like Urza Saga for Aether Spellbound to be able to return one of the large creatures that Raja can get back. But the other problem with this matchup from Catra's side is Raja has a lot of these things like Unmask and Grief to be able to take the Force of Will. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'll take Raja with this one.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against Raja here on the NRG series, as well as looks like we had an Island and then Mishra's Bauble, Mox Opal, which I haven't seen in forever, but is still around here in Legacy. Chalice of the Void, Thought Cast, and Force of Will. All the top 8 deck lists. So chat, when we are playing the tournament before top 8, the event lists are not live. Now that it's top 8, you can go over to MTG Melee, look for the NRG Series 5K trial in Mundelein, and you will find it.
Yeah, chat's mentioning that we do see that there is 1 pip next to Catra's name under the game score. I believe, from my understanding, this is game 1, so that might be an error. Not 100% positive. We'll maybe have to double check with production on that one. But yeah, the Unmask here looks like we're thinking about whether we want to take the Force of Will or the blue card. Just going to go ahead and play it safe and take the Force of Will. And if Raja has something like Dark Ritual and Tomb Reanimate, we might just be done right now.
Yeah, and Raja does need it because we could be seeing a Chalice of the Void as early as turn 1 if Catra draws the right card. See the side nod, for example, would turn on the Mox.
Exactly. So Seat, Mox, and Bauble. And we're just going to go ahead and fire off the Entomb now. So interestingly, Raja does have quite a few copies of 2-mana Reanimate spells, 4 copies of Animate Dead and 4 copies of Exhume. So if Catra does go something like Seat into Mox, into Bauble, and Chalice on 1, Raja can just play a land and have one of those ready to get back that Griselbrand.
I think we just drew another Chalice, which means we could go Bauble, Opal, Chalice, 0, Chalice on 1. I don't know if that's good.
Or so Chalice on 0 and Chalice on 1. Okay, so Chalice on 0 would cut off. We do have Lotus Petals in Raja's deck, so that could maybe be something that you want to go towards. The problem with Chalicing on 0 in Catra's deck is there's a lot of 0-mana artifacts that you would want to be able to top deck and cast. Something like the other Baubles, the Urza's Baubles, anything like that would shut off all future Mox Opals. So I'm not sure if you want to go towards that, but let's see what Catra goes ahead. And looks like we are deciding to play the Chalice on 0.
Yeah, and I think Catra's doing it just because she doesn't. They don't have much for the card Reanimate, just like in general, and they're just sort of cold. So the plan is get this Chalice on 1, call day.
Looks like we're going to go ahead and leave the Bauble uncracked. Might want to just wait until Raja's turn, or actually, we're not going to crack it at all, which means that we likely drew either a Kappa Cannoneer or a Thought Monitor. We're going to go ahead and fire up a Thought Cast. Yep. So, okay. I guess it also discounts the Thought Cast because if you sack the Bauble, you have 3 artifacts in play. Then you have to tap the Opal and the Island to be able to play the Thought Cast. So getting a little bit of a mana discount. Looks like, unfortunately for Catra, did not pick up a land. And here we're seeing Animate Dead from Raja.
Yeah. And Catra here, Faye had a very strong start, but yeah, I like the play on the Chalice. It is awkward, but I think it was your best route to victory given your hand and the way Raja was playing there. So strong play from them. But let's look at our sideboards here. Raja is up first here. Raja has 4 Show and Tell, 3 Dauthi Voidwalkers, 3 Serenity, 2 Serenity, 2 Wear and Tear, 2 Surgical, and Iona and a Faerie Macabre. What do you like here?
So, let's take a look. So typically the show and tell plan is against people who have a lot of graveyard hate. Now players do have open deck list, and if we once we'll take a look at Catra's deck list, it looks like they do not have they have a couple Faerie Macabre. So given the open deck list, you might want to go towards those show and tells, even though there's not a ton of graveyard hate. Past that, not really a lot here. You know, Catra's going to be mainly fighting on the stack, so I guess you would want to go to. Oh, never mind. The Serenities are actually an all-star in this matchup. I missed those. Being able to just blow up every single artifact that Catra has in the battlefield. So probably wants to go towards those as well.
Yeah, I could see wear tear also happening. As you hear a lot of laughter in the background, players are having fun. As wear tear isn't that can hit Urza Saga and the other artifacts like Chalice, for example. So could be something that we see happen there. Let's check out Catra's sideboard. Fae have 4 Force Negation, 3 Dismember, 2 Hercules Recall, 2 Hydroblast, 2 Faerie Macabre, 1 Soul Guide Lantern, and 1 Haywire Might. What do you like here, Devin?
So I imagine you want to go towards these Force of Negations to be able to fight over the reanimation spells and the Entombs and Faithless Lootings. The Soul Guide Lantern's kind of a slam dunk along with the Faerie Macabres. So does have quite a bit of utility here to be able to board in and fight against Raja's main reanimation game plan.
I love it. And we're going to see exactly how Faye chooses to do it. But there's, a lot of different options available in sideboard. And it looks like a little bit of respect shown here for the Reanimator deck. While some players just choose to, ignore it in general, the 2 Faerie Macabres, the Soul Guide Lantern, you actually have like a lot of the Soul Guide Lantern due to Urza Saga. So it might look like there's not a ton of things, but there's actually more than meets the eye. Kind of like a Transformer. Who's your favorite Transformer? Is it Optimus Prime? It's Optimus Prime, isn't it?
No, it's the yellow one, the Bumblebee or whatever.
Bumblebee.
Yeah, Bumblebee.
Yeah, that's fair.
Look, it's been a while since I've seen a Transformers movie. You kind of put me on the spot there, so I had to remember the name of it. But
oh, you're okay. Hey, it's all right. You don't need to know everything on the spot. You just need to know the magic stuff, which you did great. Speaking of doing great, if you're having a fun time here, you want to check out our future events. We have some more events coming up very soon. So in July, in just about 2 weeks, July 8th through the 9th, we're in St. Louis, and we have a team showdown event. That's $10K for Pioneer, Modern, Legacy team event. Grab 2 of your homies, go and play there. And then Sunday, we have the Legacy Trial 5K going on as well. So if you love Legacy, we love you here on the NRG series. Let's check out Detroit, which is going to be August 12th through the 13th. And that is going to be a Modern 10K showdown and a Sunday 5K Pioneer trial. A lot of action happening there. So if you're in the Detroit area, make sure to come out. We had a big showing with y'all last year. We can't wait to see you again. And then in Indianapolis, sort of the middle ground of all these places we've been going to, we are October 14th to the 15th. We have another Pioneer 10K showdown and then another team trial on Sunday. So you and your homies can all go play Pioneer on Saturday, and then only one of your homies is forced to play on Sunday, as it is Pioneer, Modern, and Legacy once again. And that'll be happening there. Also, anyone who wins our showdowns does get invited to our end of the year championship event. If we can pull that up real quick, you might recognize one of those faces, as Raja Sulaiman is our current reigning champion from last year, 2022. He's actually already qualified, but still coming out to our events, loves the game. And you're going to have to play against Raja, Steven Dykeman, Daniel Weiser, and Matthew Hoey, a staple of the NRG series, won yesterday for our showdown. So that's kind of filling up. And the 6 at-large spots are still very much live. So, we're at the halfway point this year. The race is really tight, honestly, Devin. If you've looked, kind of Dykeman's at the top because he won back-to-back, but already qualified, so it doesn't matter. So it's kind of Sarah Shearing down to, 13th place, or all within 10 points of each other. If you come out to our events, get a couple top 8s that don't quite convert, you're very much live for those events. So if you're going to play at this end of year $25,000 prize pool championship, you're very much live too.
Absolutely. And we also saw a name that you and I were talking about earlier, Tiago Saporito, who is, I believe, not from the United States, but was able to, head over to one of our events and do particularly well. We'll have to see if, how the story unfolds there. Maybe they want to come back and battle for another one to continue that leaderboard spot. I believe they were 4th in the leaderboard. So, that'll be an interesting story to see how that plays out as well.
100%. And you could be Tiago. You could come to our events and do that. We saw this last year with Piper Powell, how she only came out and played about 3 events, but just made the finals of all of them and, locked up the Players' Championship at the end of the year. It just does that. And last year, it was a much more highly contested. We had more events and there was more points at stake. And so if Piper can do that there, it could be you. So if you're thinking about coming to these events, you're like, I already missed the first 2. I don't know. There's still lots of events left and lots of time to get your slot. As our players do seem to be mulliganing, let's head back down to the feature match area. I mean, you can look at my face all day, but,
The Shieldred that gave it away.
Yeah. It's like that dang Shieldred, you know, and then it's the meme from 13 Reasons.
Too much. You see Russia taking a mulligan here. Anyways. Let's talk about sideboards. Yeah, I know. Who do you think improves more in this matchup? We went over the sideboards. I still kind of am leaning towards Raja, but what are you thinking?
I think Raja's deck is sort of, I'm no legacy expert like I am in other formats. I think it's sort of favored on a fundamental level, sort of looking at these things. And post-board, Serenity is such a haymaker card. And we have these little minor upgrades in wear tear too. So I kind of like Raja deck. And Raja deck is built to fight against these heavy force negation decks and force of will decks. So I really sort of like that, because if we take a look at the other deck, 8cast here from Catra, there are some upgrades, like I mentioned, and there is more respect than you probably would expect here with the Faerie Macabre and the Soul Guide Lantern and the Forces. But Raja beats this out of decks that like function off 1 or 2 cards at the end of this, and Catra's deck doesn't quite function as well if it has to pitch cast a bunch early. So there can be some awkwardness there, and I think that really puts me in the Raja camp. Also, whenever you're up a game, it's so hard for me to root against someone up a game unless the sideboard is sort of nuclear against that matchup.
Right, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with you as well. The one saving grace for Catra is they are on the play this game, so you could see something like a more likely to have a turn 1 Chalice the Void. We saw that game. Raja go ahead, fire off a discard spell, take the Force of Will, and immediately follow that up with an Entomb. But if you can imagine Catra being on the play, if there's a Chalice the Void on 1 in play, even if the discard spell takes Force of Will, Raja might not be able to have access to the enabler to put the creature in the graveyard, because if Raja's deck list basically only has Entomb and Faithless Looting to be able to do that. I guess you can Thoughtseize yourself, but same thing. Outside of the 4 Unmasks, which you can target yourself with, but you know, maybe more of a risky proposition if we're on a mulligan to 5, which I believe Raja is on.
Yeah. It looks like Raja maybe had a sleeve messed up and is fixing that real quick here. We can see the player still on our screen. And yeah, you know, to use a comparison, I actually think the Team of Rhinos deck in Legacy, it would be like a much harder matchup for Raja, despite being sort of maybe a, you know, quote unquote weaker deck. Just sort of puts a bunch of power like we've seen from the Rhinos decks in play, and then forces the first thing, right? And just goes like, okay, counter that. I don't care. Attack you for 8. Attack you for 8. All right, you can't even Griselbrand, you know, like die. And that sort of thing is something that this deck can technically do with Kappa Cannoneer, but it's so much harder for this deck to do.
Right, and there's also, I believe, only 2 copies of Kappa Cannoneer. I remember when that card first came out, I feel like the 8cast decks played upwards of 4 copies of that, and that was mostly maybe them trying it out, but we see much more of kind of like a combo / mid-range approach, like maxing out on Thought Monitor and Emissary, maybe trying to play a little bit more later into the game, and that's where Reanimator wants you to play, because they don't give you that much time.
100%, yeah. And that's really sort of what a lot of these decks are trying to do, is they're either trying to play these really long games or end the game really quickly. And Reanimate is sort of one of the best at ending the game quickly. And like I said earlier, I guess it was with Dom and not Doom. The 1-0 was missing there. But I was saying, I think Reanimator is criminally underplayed. I think it is very strong, but players think, oh, I just lose the hate cards, and they hate that. Like, just if you lose like 1 card, it's very frustrating for players. And I think there's this thought that it's kind of like not a very skill testing deck, so people don't really like it, but it seems incredibly challenging to me to play it at the highest level at the max proficiency, which is what we're seeing Roger Sulaiman kind of do today and get heavily rewarded for doing it.
Yeah, and it's even more exacerbated when you have cards like 4 copies of Unmask and 4 copies of Grief, where your mulligan decisions, or every single mulligan you take, is worth so much more, because when you're down more cards, it's really harder to convert Grief and Unmask into, you know, and you're less able to cast those cards, right? You need to have more just raw cards in hand to be able to pitch those. So your mulligan decisions were like, they become a lot harder, because you have to figure out, is it worth keeping this in my hand? Because then you're effectively going down even more cards. So there's a lot to think about when you're mulliganing with this deck, and you know, also have to think about what type of hate does my opponent have? What do I need to mulligan to? Like, if they mulligan to a ley line, do I have to mulligan to a Serenity or a Wear Tear? So a lot of different things they have to think about with their Reanimator deck.
Yeah. This is something we're seeing a lot. I think this may be some of the complaints we have from some players about Pioneer, and that they like about Modern, is that they feel like they get to have more plays, and then because you have more plays, you can choose the plays how you want to play them. Legacy is that on steroids, where it's like basically your whole hand is playable on turn 1, not just a majority of it, and it lets you really choose how you want to play the games and have skill expression there.
Right, and you know, you see formats like Pioneer. A lot of the games are maybe not a lot, but a lot of like the early turns are pretty scripted. You don't have a ton of choices, like obviously to push the elf, cast Thoughtseize, and then when you get to a format like modern, you get a little, you step up. It's kind of like stepping stones where you're going up into modern that has Fury, Grief, and all the elementals, and then you get to legacy, which is just like Unmask over here, Daze over here, Force of Will over here, all Wasteland. It's just like infinite free spells in legacy. So it's kind of like a stepping stones type of thing.
Agreed. Otawara into Soul Guide Lantern doesn't get to snag anything off the lantern, but is able to just be popped immediately as a Mishra's Bauble is the second play here for Catra.
Yeah, and go ahead and fire off the Soul Guide Lantern, which is, obviously one of Catra's sideboard cards. It is pretty good, able to pop the graveyard. Raja gonna need a copy of Weretor or potentially a Serenity. I just cannot keep thinking about Serenity, how backbreaking that card is against Catra's deck.
Yeah, it is sort of 2 mana destroy everything. So it's like Plague Wind for 2, really. As we are seeing Raja take a minute to think here. And it's interesting that Raja, I believe, is on a mulligan to 5 this game. So it's going to have a little less resources than normal, but doesn't mean it won't be able to use them, as we are going to see a Grief pitching Archon. And Catra has Sai, Master Thopters, Chalice of the Void, Force Negation, and Urza Saga. Pretty good hand.
Yeah, definitely a pretty good hand. Raja likely, I mean, it's really tough here. You want to take the Chalice of the Void, but then Catra can go ahead and resolve, or Catra can go ahead and have the Force and the blue card up. But then if you take the Force negation, you're letting Catra resolve a Chalice of the Void. So it really depends on what is in Raja's hand. Looks like I saw a copy of, I did see a copy of Weretor, so that is going to be able to take care of the Soul Guide Lantern. But yeah, it really depends on what if we have any 1-drops that we want to cast. If there's a 1-drop that Raja casts this turn, we can just let Catra have the Chalice, fire off the 1-drop now, maybe not care about the Chalice. So a lot of things to consider for Raja here.
I think Raja actually has almost the perfect hand here for the situation. His other cards were Exhume, Faithless Looting, and Atraxa.
Oh, well, it's pretty good.
So, yeah, so I think Raja can Faithless Looting and then hope Catra pops the Soul Guide a little early and then maybe infuse the Wear Tear to take rid of the Urza Saga and one of the other artifacts, including Chalice of the Void.
Well, I'm wondering, if you have a second land here, is it even worth casting the Faithless Looting? Because you can just pass here, second land, blow up the Soul Guide Lantern, and then the turn after, land 3, looting, and Exhume all in one go.
Yeah, great point. That might be the play. It looks like Raja is just going to go for the Faithless Looting really quick. Looks like another one of Raja's sleeves maybe broke. That was part of the reason it took so long there is, yeah, Raja's just going to call a judge and have them fix the sleeve real quick. Nothing wrong or bad happening here. Just a moment of, yeah, I know my sleeves are breaking. This happens in events. We had this happen in the middle of the sideboarding where a sleeve split. Yeah, it feels like
new sleeves.
Yeah, Catra's like, not again. Oh, I don't know if Raja has more sleeves. That might be the problem.
Uh-oh. We could take it from the sideboard?
Oh, Catra's face. I wonder if Catra accidentally messed up the sleeve. Is it? Oh, okay. That is so gotcha. So what happened is, unfortunately, when Catra was shuffling, a couple split, and now I think we're just sort of trying to fix the sleeves, get some extra sleeves. It happens. It's okay. Everyone does it. Not a big deal. So right now what's happened is we just resolved a fetch and a Faithless Looting, so it's going to be a really easy fetch. We'll just de-sleeve the damaged sleeves, re-sleeve the cards into new ones. Deck will be shuffled a little bit again. No worries. And luckily, we know Raja has at least 15 sleeves because Raja has his sideboard. So we'll just de-sleeve those cards.
As long as more than 15 of them are damaged, then we'll be okay.
Yeah. And it is understandably frustrating, but totally cool. These sort of things happen. If this ever issue, don't worry too much about it. You can tell Catra feels very upset, but it's okay. Everyone does it. I mess up sleeves. Don't let me shuffle your sleeves too much, Devin.
No,
I'll break them. Yeah.
I get a pack of new sleeves, and I get half of them split within a week. So yeah, I'm the same exact way.
Yeah, when I see people have the nice art sleeves where it's like an anime or something and they don't have the double, like the clear on the outside to protect it, I'm always like, dang, you're playing with fire. That is risky business. But we are just going to have the players fix that real quick here. This is going to be a quick second. And you know what else could be a quick second, Devin? you can go visit nerdragegaming.com and pick up all the Magic the Gathering cards you need. You can head over there and check out all of the prices. We have a pretty cool redemption thing. And we can also really quickly check out what the players are playing for here in top 8. If we can pull up that slide real quick. Go spend your money at Nerd Rage Gaming. Pick up the One Ring. They are...
NerdRageGaming.com is the place to get your hands on all the hottest Magic singles. Browse our full selection of staples from every format and shop an exclusive inventory you won't find anywhere else. Shop regularly and get rewards.
It says error at the end. And then here is the 5K prizes. First place, we have $1,200 and 30 points here. As long as this is an RCQ, Devin, we haven't talked about that much yet, but these players are also playing for a spot at DreamHack Atlanta in the Christmas time. So that's exciting. We're also at $600 for second place and 25 points. Third and fourth is $400. Fifth through eighth is $200. So no matter what happens to their player here, their minimum getting $200 is very exciting. 9th through 16th is $100, and 17th through 32nd get their money back with $50. And very importantly, 5 points. We saw Connor Lally last year actually get our player of the year by racking up a couple decent finishes and a win, and then just a bunch of 17ths and 33rds, and just being like, yeah, it's simple living, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, and also, like you said, these players are playing for a decent chunk of change. Could probably buy a lot of sleeves with that $1,200. I'm just saying.
Yeah, over at nerdragegaming.com and using code STAYATHOME for free shipping.
Absolutely.
But
don't use code Mason, though.
Well, you don't even know what's going to happen. The error could be anything. What if the website breaks and gives you the cards for free? You don't know unless you try. So make sure to go and check all of that out going on there. Also, make sure to check out our sister stream at, I think it's NRG Store. They stream weekly Modern and events like that, Devin. I don't know if you've checked that out. And they have local players commentating that. So if you ever want to see some more Paper Magic, NRG is sort of the place for you here. We don't use it on this channel, but it's on a different one, which is pretty exciting. So make sure to do that. As it looks like it has been fixed here. I am unsure if we resolve Faithless Looting. I think Raja's discarding the 2 cards.
All right. So as you mentioned, Raja did have a copy of Atraxa. We'll have to see if we want to go towards discarding that, but it is a little, risky proposition with the Soul Guide Lantern already on the battlefield. And Raja, give it a quick shake of his head. I wonder if he's thinking maybe he regretting casting that Faithless Looting.
Yeah, and I think you might have been right. As we get Wear Tear and Atraxa hit the yard, yeah, and we see immediately Catra pops the Soul Guide Lantern. Pops the Mishra's Bauble, gets the idea and decides if Faye wants to pop the Soul Guide. Looks like they don't. I like that holding it. Mishra's Bauble draw for turn, and then I think he picked up a Thought Monitor. Urza Saga trigger.
Yeah, we'll be able to keep up the Lantern to kind of make Raja go for a Reanimate spell. So basically, Raja's going to have to trade a lot of resources to be able to answer that Lantern, especially with discarding the Wear Tear. It's just kind of a thing that's going to happen now. And also, an Archon got pitched to the Grief. So Raja doesn't really have a lot of leftovers. I remember seeing the Wear Tear in his hand. Not quite sure exactly what the leftovers are. Just going to go ahead and pass the turn back to Catra here.
Yeah, I think Raja was basically trying to play around this last turn with the Faithless Looting before the Faithless Looting got Chalice the Voided. As we see another Urza Saga here. And now Raja's underneath it. And unlike last game, where we were able to sort of, power through and, draw the land for the Exhume as we already have it, the Soul Guide Lantern is going to buy us time. And we're really seeing why Mono Blue 8 cast is kind of an a Chalice Stompy deck, where we're just going to put a bunch of big artifact creatures on the board and hit Raja a bunch and hope it's enough.
Yeah, and also the big problem now is, like last game, there wasn't a lot of pressure here from Catra, where Raja was able to maybe do a little bit of setup. Urza Saga does not give you a lot of time. You're going to see Catra go ahead and end step make a token, untap make another token. That's going to be 5 artifacts, plus the artifact that they get from the sacrifice of the Saga. That's 6, putting Raja to 13, and then that's all of a sudden lethal the turn after. As we see a Serenity cast. That one's pretty good, Mason.
Yeah, let's get Serenity up on screen for everyone who doesn't know this one. It is a little bit of a banger. It's at the beginning of your upkeep, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. They cannot be regenerated. I prefer the original since they bury, but destroy will have to work. As now this Chalice of the Void's gone, the Soul Guide Lantern's gone, we will be able to exile the graveyard, which will stop Raja from getting this Atraxa back. And we're going to get one hit in with the Urza Saga construct, but completely backbreaking as the Urza Saga will also die.
Yeah, this kills legitimately everything but the Otawara. This is gonna be a lot for Catra to fight through. Now, as you mentioned, we are gonna get in one hit with the construct token. Not a lot of reason to make a second construct token because the Serenity is going to get popped next turn. So Catra's gonna go ahead and sacrifice the Saga. What are we potentially looking at getting here? So we have I guess really probably just want to get an artifact to cycle, because if you get something like a spell bomb or a needle, it's just going to get swallowed up by the Serenity. So likely just going to go ahead and say maybe get like a Mishra's or an Urza's bauble, pump up the construct, attack with that. Then you can go ahead and sacrifice both baubles to get 2 cantrips, because you know both of those are going to die at the Serenity.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the line here. Looks like Kotris is taking a second to make sure we're not missing anything. You always want to do these spots, especially these untimed top 8 rounds. Take a second. You'd hate to lose because you rushed through something here. And we got, plenty of time happening as there's Urza's bauble. A little shuffle duffle.
All right, so that is going to be the cantrip. As we said, Catra's going to go ahead and punch in here for what appears to be 5 damage, putting Rasha to 13. Serenity's going to go ahead and pop off. All the baubles and the lantern's going to get sacrificed. Notably, actually, wait a minute. So that Serenity also kills the Chalice, and if Raja has land 3 and say maybe like Entomb plus Reanimate, we might just borrow Entomb plus Exhume, then that just might be the game right there.
Yeah, we're going to have to see exactly how this goes, as Catra is going to decide to use the mana, I think, to maybe just make a construct, or, we're casting Psy. Okay, so we're going to have something left over. That's good.
Yeah, that's something that does not die to the Serenity. Gonna go ahead and crack that bauble now. What's the reveal? That's not a bad one.
Yeah, that one's gonna be used pretty soon. Catra here probably gonna rumble, get in 4 damage, put Raja down to 14.
Yeah, and Raja's really just looking for, like we said, just a way to bin a creature into the graveyard, something like an Entomb or a Faithless Looting. Really wants to find access to that. Going to go ahead and fire off a Mishra's bauble. Catra's going to go ahead and be able to get to draw 2 cards. What was that?
Sorry, Raja showed us to the camera. No one's done that before, to his personal cam.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It was a Lotus Petal.
Okay. So that might not be too bad for Raja if we don't have another land in hand. We got an Ancient Tomb here for Catra.
Yeah. So, Catra gets to draw 2. Looks like she maybe has something. Okay. Looks like she was just wanting to double check and go through everything correctly, which respect for.
Get it all out of here. So we're left with an Ancient Tomb Ancient Tomb, Otawara, and Sai. I see an Ancient Tomb and another Chalice in hand for Catra. That one's not too bad. If Rasha doesn't have a 1-mana enabler or like a 1-mana way to put a creature in the graveyard, that Chalice could shut off future ways for Rasha to be able to do that.
100%. We also, Catra knows about the Exhumes. With the second Ancient Tomb, we could Chalice on 2 and just cut that part off. As if Raja had a 1-mana enabler, Raja would have used it this turn.
Yeah, that's a good point. If Raja had something like an Entomb, you would have seen that just fired off plus the Exhume. So yeah, very, very good point. Might want to just go ahead and fire it off on 2. Interesting to see how exactly Catra wants to play this. Yeah, it looks like we are going to go for it on 2.
Yeah, and I love this play from Catra. Very heads up. Very much, we talked about this all weekend, Devin, where every play our opponent does, and importantly doesn't make, really gives us a lot of information that you can make informed decisions about. So incredibly heads up there from Catra. And it looks like
another thing that Chalice on 2 shuts off is multiple or more copies of Serenity as well as Wear Tear. So all of the sideboard answers that Raja has to artifacts are now offline.
Yeah. Did miss the Thopter trigger last year, but we're going to get it this time. It was our Mox Opal.
I guess I should say not if Catra has a Saga in play, because you can fuse it, and I'm fairly certain that fused Wear Tear gets the round Chalice, but the artifact destruction side of Wear Tear does cost 2 mana.
Yes, that's true. Luckily, though, Raja is getting beaten down here, and it's gonna scale pretty quickly, as we do see a tapping of Ancient Tomb, losing 2 more life for Catra. And it looks like we have a Thought Monitor.
It's a pretty good one.
Yep. I'm going to draw 2 cards here and get another Thopter.
Yeah.
And this is really doubling the power on board.
And now we even have 2 Thopters, so if Catra picks up a blue source, we can go ahead and sacrifice the Thopters to draw another card. So just kind of keep the cards flowing. Really just wants to find, I mean, at this point, you have kind of enough of a battlefield to be able to clock Raja. You really just want to find forces and blue cards.
Yeah, and we're seeing this Mox Opal here, probably with Catra leading into another draw spell. As this is Shadow Spear. Okay, get another Psy, and this will be a thing we can grow. We can equip this right now, use our mana effectively, and boom, now we have a big Thought Monitor. And this is 8 power on board.
That's a pretty good turn for Catra.
Yeah.
Raja's
You see
gonna
Roger
need a
sort
lot
of...
Would love to draw that. Well, I was going to say would love to draw the second copy of Serenity. There were not for the Chalice. We do remember the Chalice. Love it.
Yeah. Although Raja might have almost died anyways without it, you know? The board get wiped and we just rebuild. But Catra remembers it, and we're in a sitting pretty spot here.
Let's count the board. We got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage on the board, so Raja is not technically dead this turn. But, I mean, might be effectively dead with no outs, given that, again, we have the Chalice on 2 to be able to cut off Raja of casting the Exhume that we know about and any future copies of Wear Tear. So cannot really answer any artifacts at this juncture, and we are going to go ahead and put Raja to 4.
And Catra doing Faye best to get to a game number 3 here. And yeah, Raja's going to pack him up. We're moving to game number 3 here. Going to be pretty exciting. This has been a really, game 1, we sort of saw some great, little bit of small game, but great plays happen there. And then that was a nice, long, drawn-out game. And it sort of shows, like we mentioned, Catra doesn't have too much, but has, a lot of redundancy in having basically 5 Soul Guide Lanterns with all the Urza Sagas and a couple Faerie Macabres. And the Chalices, Chalice Stompy decks like these sometimes just lock you out of playing your card for a couple turns, and that's all it takes.
Right. We saw that Raja had the turn 1 Faithless Looting to put it, put the creature in the graveyard in the face of the Soul Guide Lantern. Maybe wanted to kind of just try to bait the Soul Guide Lantern out of Catra. Was able to resolve a Serenity. Like, the fact that Catra fought through that Serenity is pretty impressive.
Yeah, Psy Master Thopters did a lot of great work there, and you saw sort of the power too of these all having the 8 draw 2s, right? Having Thought Monitor and Thought Cast really gives you a lot of game. And speaking of having a lot of game, we have a lot of games here in the NRG series coming up. So in July, we have the 8th and the 9th going on. We have in St. Louis a team event, 10K showdown. That's be Modern Legacy Pioneer. And then on Sunday, we're going to have the Legacy 5K trial. So you want to come out and go to that. That's just a couple weeks from now. Then Detroit, August 12th to the 13th, Modern 10K showdown on Saturday. Sunday, Pioneer 5K trial. Give you a little bit more time to prepare for this one. And then in October, with a little month off in September, we're going to have the Pioneer 10K showdown on Saturday, and then the team trial on Sunday, 10K Modern Pioneer Legacy. Grab your friends and come on out into those events. That is really, we'd love to have y'all here, and it's a great way to support the series, but also a great way to support the series is just to follow on Twitch here. That way you don't miss any of the action. We stream all these events, and we love to have y'all in chat, memeing, having a good time, etc. Talking about how funny Devin is, talking about how handsome I am, just normal Twitch chat stuff. Mostly
talking about Shieldred, right?
Yes. Well, Bump of the Night. There's a real, we actually, can I get a poll going in chat? I guess I'm a mod now. Poll, Shieldred or Bump of the Night, which one are we a bigger fan of? Both that are very good. Bump of the Night has flashback, so it's like a 2-for-1 when you think about it. And Shieldred can only ever be a 1-for-1. So
I may or may not be putting a poll in chat. I'm unclear what I'm actually doing right now, but yeah, we'll see what's happening.
But I do know one more thing is happening, and that is we have a lot more Magic left to do. This is just our first match of the quarterfinals. We still have the semis and the finals. We're going to be bringing you all the Magic that we can. We have a backup feature match going on right now. When this one ends, we're going to jump straight into that one live, and then we're going to continue with our top 4 and then finals. And remember, so it turns out, actually, just now, the last match finished. So this is the last one. The winner here will be going on to the top 4. We don't know exactly who yet won those matches, but we'll make sure to show you all with our handy dandy graphic of the player slide and which decks went on. But it's going to be really exciting to see. And, some of these matchups are really good for Raja in top 8, and some are really bad for Raja. And the same for Catra, where some of these are really good in top 8 and some are really bad. So in some ways, you're really like, I really hope, Chris loses over there with his Leyland the Void in the main deck. I don't want to play against that. While Catra's like, give me that deck. Let's go. So we have to see exactly how this plays out.
Can you imagine Raja queuing into the four main deck Leyline, four main deck Dauthi Voidwalker? Like, where did this all go wrong? I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I was told that this format has like Daze and Force of Will, and that's it, game one. And my opponent has Grief as well with all this. What's going on? But we have to see here, as looks like Raja is still checking out the sideboard from Catra. Just wants to, keep in mind all the things that could be coming in and take advantage of all those options. And that's really important. This is something that, players don't get a lot of chance to practice, Devin. Open deckless tournaments are not very common outside of the RC. And so really your only chance to practice this is in the top 8 of these events, but it's really something you should be working on if you qualified for any of those DreamHack events. Am I right?
Absolutely. And, like we said, we're giving out invites to the DreamHack event throughout the showdowns and the events this weekend. So, yeah, players definitely want to practice that. It is kind of a different beast whenever you sit down and you're like, you look at your opponent's deck list, like, exactly what you're supposed to mulligan for. It's a different experience than playing on Magic Online for sure.
100%. And, while this is all going down, we have the which card is better poll going down, and it's pretty clear.
I see it.
Yeah, I voted just now to really push over the line. So if you're a big fan of Pioneer Red Black, you might want to be considering a bump in the night if it ever gets reprinted. Currently can't get it, but who knows? Could get reprinted.
Sovereign's Bite, pretty close. 2 mana, drain them for 3, gain 3. I mean, it costs 2 mana, but it's still less than Shieldred, right?
It looks like Lightning Helix to me. I've never. The good thing about Sovereign's Bite is you can't mess up. With Lightning Helix, sometimes I can target creatures, but with Sovereign's Bite, I always know I have to go Dome. And I like that in my decks as we're going back down to the future match area here.
Yeah, Raja shuffling up. Looks like Catra has presented. And we're doing a little bit of thinking again. So Raja's going to go ahead and be on the play this game. Obviously, very, very good place to be for a deck like Rakdos Reanimator is able to get a bunch of stuff. I'm actually wondering, do you think that Raja should maybe play some Shieldreds in his deck? Because we can go Entomb for Shieldred, get that thing back. What are you thinking, Mason?
I'm thinking turn 1, we go Faithless Looting. They fight over it. Turn 2, land Darkrit Shieldred. Call that a backup plan.
There you go. Plan X.
Yeah. And I think Raja here decided just to change up one sideboard card. You're seeing in the background a lot of our star players there, like Connor Lely, our player of the year for 2022, hanging out, I believe, riding with Raja to this event. So Connor is in the old, my friend is doing really well, but I want to get home before 2 a.m. What do I vote for internally? As
going back to the sideboard, we can't figure it out. We just can't figure it out. At this point, Raja, just play 61. Come on, just play 61. It's not. Let's do it. Let's just do it.
Oh my goodness gracious! Just so Twitch chat now, it's just changing the sideboard card back and forth. I respect it. You gotta do what you gotta do. There's a lot of money and the RCQ invite on the line. I don't think Raja's qualified yet, so important to get it where you can.
Let's fire a prediction and see if Raja changes one more sideboard card before he presents.
Yeah, if we get a prediction in the chat for the sideboard
too
card.
late. All right.
No, Raja's changing his deck again.
Oh no, we're just giving us the deck sleeves. Okay, all right.
I thought Raja was gonna shuffle.
Yeah, wait. We got one more. Maybe he's asking the judge to take one card out of his deck so he can add a card. You know what I mean? He's having the judge sideboard for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, Judge, I cannot figure this out. Can I get a little homie help? Phone a friend? As we do see Raja. True, yeah. Raja is just actually hogging the camera light right now. Just loves it.
Too much.
As we are going to see Raja tank. His body language looks a little tense. Look at that. Normally he's like broad shoulders, very calm. I think this hand's a close one.
Yeah, not sure about this one. Maybe a little light on mana. Could be. So I played a little bit of Rakdos Reanimator, and there was a lot of hands that are just like Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, or maybe not even Dark Ritual, but like Lotus Petal, Entomb, Lotus Petal, Exhume, and you're like, well, do I draw the second land? I see a white border card, which is probably a Badlands, maybe not quite that hand. It looks like an Exhume, an Atraxa, a Grief, and a Reanimate. So maybe mana, Grief, but no Enabler.
Yeah, I think that is what we have here. Outside of Thoughtseize ourselves, which is very, that's an all-in play.
Yeah, the unfortunate part for Raja about Grief, normally with Exhume, you can Exhume target yourself. Grief does not, Grief, you can only target opponents with it.
Yeah. Yeah, Grief not quite unmasked there, so it's going to play out a little bit differently. As Raja decided to keep, can't change this one. as it does look like we're going to fire off a turn 1 spell of some kind.
Are we going to see Thoughtseize myself? That would be awesome.
Okay.
No, all right, fine.
Raja hates the fans, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
By the way, hating the fans, did you notice no Delver in top 8?
True, very, very true. We're going to go ahead and see a Force of Negation, a Thoughtcast, a pair of Thought Monitors, a Seed of the Synod, an H2 Man, and Urza's Saga. Likely wants to go towards that Force of Negation. And honestly, after Force of Negation, Catra's hand not looking so hot.
Yeah, Catra's hand's looking a little slow. This might be a turn 1 Urza Saga just to go find Soul Guide Lantern ASAP and stop Raja from doing his thing.
Yeah, and Raja did have the option because we took a look at the rest, or we saw the rest of the hand. I saw Lotus Petal and Exhume and an Atraxa had the option to Thoughtseize himself, but knows after sideboarding with the presence of 8 copies of Force of Will, given that plus Force of Negation, did not want to go ahead and kind of get a little bit risky there. But with the Lotus Petal, it'll be draw.
Drew Haywire Might. It's a castable spell for our turn 1 Urza Saga, which also blows up Animate Dead.
Well, funnily enough, that one actually does take care of Serenity, right? Because if you go Serenity, you have to pass, and you can just go blow up the Serenity on your own turn.
That's actually huge. Maybe that's what Catra was trying to draw to in that last game. We just missed that. Heads up play there, Devin. Roger's taking a little bit of a reader there on Haywire Might. Making sure.
So yeah, from what I remember in Raja's hand, it was a Grief, a Lotus Petal, and an Exhume. Didn't get a good look to see if we had an Enabler.
Yeah, I think you were right. I think we were missing the Enabler, and I think that's what Raja's head's at right now. It's like, I cannot actually get it quite going.
Yeah, so maybe thinking about firing off an early Grief. I mean, Raja does know the entire hand because the Haywire Might was the top deck. So, going to get a pretty good idea of whether or not he wants to fire off that Grief, knowing the contents. Going to go ahead and start with the Marsh Flats and see what we maybe get something like a Scrubland. Ooh, I wonder if we have a Serenity.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Playing Serenity now kind of puts Catra in an awful position because Catra has to figure out some way to turn on the Might, but I think the only way is Mox Opal in the deck, and Raja would know that. So the Serenity would actually just be game resetting.
Catra is on 4 Petal, 4 Opal, so wouldn't be able to activate Opal, but Petal would be an out to go ahead and activate that.
Okay, great call there.
Is this a Stone Rain? Heck yeah. Get it out.
Bam. Yeah, and Raja's like, yeah, I'll take one.
I don't know about you, Mason, but I'm a really big fan of 1-mana Stone Rains.
Oh, I love Stone Rains. You know what my favorite card is?
Sinkhole?
No. Close. It's Tanglear.
Shieldred?
It's the fair Stone Rain.
Oh, Tanglear. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty close to Shieldred. It's kind of the same thing.
The Shieldred of its day is Haywire Might attacks in for 1. Gravecrawler is my second favorite card, though. So followed closest by Thalia, then Rashad and Port, then Wasteland. Do you noticing a trend?
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this. So you
I'm very fun at parties. Invite me as we see a fetch.
You really must be. You're actually the first person that I'll send out an invite to.
Thank you.
All right, we're cracking a land. I wonder if we're going to go Petal, Hardcast, Grief, because we're pretty sure I saw a Petal in hand, and I'm also fairly certain we saw Grief. Here's the Petal, and looks like 4 mana to me.
Yeah, and we're going to get a Grief down here. And Catra, do the Fae have a Force?
So I think Thoughtcast, Monitor, Negation, and a land.
Okay.
Tomb. Okay.
Sure.
So we have a Force, but the wrong Force.
Yeah. Yeah. Forcing the Lotus Petal 2 would have been a dubious proposition.
Yeah. Yeah. That one.
We are going to take that.
Usually don't want to fire that one off. We are going to go ahead and take the Force, leaving Catra with a couple Monitors and a Thoughtcast, which we are. We can actually cast the Thoughtcast this turn because 2 artifacts plus 3 mana, so that is pretty good for Catra. Can go ahead and try to pick up some or get some pieces going. Able to maybe find like an Opal here. Petal would be nice to be able to hold up Haywire Might as well, because correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Animate Dead has a trigger So I don't actually know how it works. If you go Animate Dead, trigger on the stack, blow up the Animate Dead, does the original trigger still put the thing into play?
The only Animate Dead I've ever read is the original, which is no way going to be helpful here. I think it
That's
does
true.
do what you're saying, though. Yeah, because when it enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield,
It's got like 100 erratas, so nobody actually knows what it does.
I think it does work, like the way you're saying.
Okay.
But we'll see. Twitch
We'll have
chat
to see
says
if
it
that
does
comes up.
not, but it fizzles the Animate Dead. Okay, so yeah, if Twitch chat is to be believed, and Twitch chat, as you know, Devin, more than most, is always right.
Oh yeah, they're never wrong. 100%. Can confirm.
Yep.
See an Urza's Bauble, tapping a bunch of mana here for Catra. I believe we have enough to play a Monitor, right? Yeah, 3 artifacts plus 4 mana. So, yeah, I mean that's one divination at a time. We're kind of putting some more stuff on the battlefield, cycling through our deck, trying to find some so get some more pressure in play. Because that's the issue here. Is funnily enough, Rasha's winning the race just with the grief alone.
Yeah, Roger was sort of doing his thing there, slowly building up. By the way, Twitch chat is level Twitch when it comes to being a judge, and they're all saying that it ruins Animate Dead's day. So big draws coming here.
All right, cool. So yeah, hey, Reanimate's pretty good. Does able to stop the Animate Dead and able to stop the Serenity, which was we saw a very backbreaking play from Raja last game. And yeah, Raja just kind of spinning some wheels, has to decide if we want to go ahead and attack with the Grief and offer the trade up for both creatures. The nice thing about the trade from Raja's perspective is Raja knows about an additional copy of Thought Monitor. So if Catra does trade for the Monitor and the Haywire, likely unable to cast that second Monitor.
Yeah, kind of like a double Stone Ray.
Yeah,
when basically. You think about it.
It's like 2 Wear Tears.
Yeah, true. As Raja's tanking, interesting spot where if there's nothing really stopping Raja from doing his thing except the ability to set it up. And we know that Catra, at least a couple turns ago didn't have any forces. So it's a kind of matter of where Raja can find it. And I wonder if he has some like Faithless Looting type cards that he's considering casting and just tanking on this turnabout. Because clearly he has something he can do, and it's not good enough to win the game, where he might just go for it here.
I wonder if it's like a second Wear Tear, and he's thinking about blowing up the Seat of the Synod or the Monitor. But all right, we're gonna go ahead and pitch an Unmask.
Yeah, exile Griselbrand to the Unmask.
Ooh, targeting ourself.
Yeah, put Atraxa in, and we're going for it. Reanimate on Atraxa. Also, what a world where Griselbrand isn't the target. Oh,
okay, that's what we were thinking. We were thinking about what to pitch. Awesome, that's hilarious. Well, funny enough, if you pitch the Atraxa and put the Griselbrand into play, the Reanimate puts you low enough where you can't activate the Griselbrand.
Oh, true. Yeah, you have to wait a turn, so you don't get the immediate cards, and then you're also dead to Bump in the Night, and that's a pretty big payoff there. As Atraxa is going to hit at least another Atraxa, at least a Lotus Petal. There's a fetch land for sure we can have, and then everything else is up to Raja. I assume Raja will take the... Oh, there's a Grief hiding next to Atraxa, so there is a choice there.
Jeez, this Atraxa is pretty good. We get to take Entomb, Animate Dead, likely. Since already has an Atraxa, probably wants to take the Archon of Cruelty. Oh, we haven't taken a sorcery yet either, so we get 6 cards. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you see it in Catra's head in the hands, knows that Fae are in a bad position. Archon of Cruelty is going to be the pick with, a couple of these cards just going there.
Yeah, just a casual draw 6, no big deal. Nothing to see here. Guess thinking about the second Atraxa versus the Archon. With an Atraxa on the battlefield, and Catra's only answer being Aether Spellbomb, likely want to pick up the Archon, because if the Atraxa gets bounced, then you could just, if you wanted to go to the Atraxa again, you could just discard it after it gets bounced.
Agreed. All right. That is now Raja's hand. And the question is, can Raja do anything this turn? I believe Raja can go Entomb, Lotus Petal, Animate Dead.
Well, remember, the Animate Dead is... Oh, I guess there's no green source. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so now would be a great time to get like maybe an Archon of Cruelty for Raja into play.
Yep.
Out of the deck, and then, make Catra lose a card. If you're Raja, there's no force over there.
Right. Yeah, might as well go ahead and fire it off now. Looting, likely discard maybe the land and the Archon, play the Petal, fire off the Animate Dead, Catra would likely, I mean, at that point, Catra maybe has to sacrifice the Monitor and just hope to peel Petal, and then you could use Petal to sack the Haywire Mite, which would blow up the Animate Dead. That would answer one problem. Then you'd still have to contend with the Atraxa, but I mean, I guess maybe the saving grace is with Raja at 8, but if you're going to sack the Monitor, you have no pressure left. Yeah, this is looking rough for Catra.
Yeah, so you see Faithless Looting get cast here, draw 2.
Yeah, Raja didn't find enough cards, so keep going. I remember watching that game where Raja was on camera and he was just like, he just Griselbrand it for like 4 turns in a row, and it's just kept drawing cards. It's just like,
yeah, he just couldn't find the win. It was so crazy. As we do see Archon of Cruelty and a Marsh Flats go to the graveyard. Yeah, it's an interesting spot too, where from Raja's perspective, even if the Thought Monitor is the sack and then Haywire Mite blows up the Animate Dead, it's not even that awful in exchange for you. That's a lot of resources, and you drew a card, gained some life. Catra lost some life, which puts Fae Dead to the Atraxa trigger. So the Atraxa attack. So I think Raja's just double checking to make sure there's not anything better that he could do.
It looks like is going to go ahead and crack the Petal, thinking about firing off the Animate Dead. I have to imagine. Can't really think of a ton of reason not to, given the presence of no force of negation or force of will, because you have to imagine that would have already been fired off.
Oh, I wonder if Raja forgets that there's Days Run on the deck, and that's why we played the Lotus Petal.
Perhaps. Well, there's also no island in play for Catra.
I don't know what's how Raja's asking a judger question. I think Raja's probably so we can actually see the players again on the side here. Raja is getting Oracle text on a card. I can see Raja talking to the judge, and the judge is showing Raja the phone. So it might just be like, I want to make sure that there's nothing weird going on. It might be the Animate Dead with the Haywire Mite is the actual thing that's probably happening.
Yeah, I wonder if he's asking a judge for Oracle text on Animate Dead, we might be here for another 10 years.
Well, would that be the worst thing that happened? You just have to drop a follow in the Twitch chat that we don't miss any of the action.
Yeah, I still am not convinced that anybody in the entire world knows like what that card is meant to do, what it's like, what the actual text on it. But anyways, here we go. Raja found the answer that he's looking for. Still going into the tank. I mean, I can't really think of a reason not to cast the Animate Dead here, but Raja's going through the motions here.
Yeah, I can think of plenty of reasons. They're just not very good. Like Raja's like, I could use some more camera time and make it a little closer, give Devin and Mason more to talk about, make my car mates wait in the round for another 10 minutes. Lots of little things that could go on with Raja, but what am I going to eat after this? Will the bar be open?
It's the most important question.
Yeah.
We're going to have
Tomb.
So, I wonder if we're getting the Serra's Emissary, because there is one Serra's Emissary in Raja's deck.
Iona.
We boarded in the Iona. I had forgotten about that card. Well, that makes a lot of sense too, given that Catra is playing a mono blue deck.
Yep.
Sounds pretty good against the mono blue deck.
Yep. Named Blue.
That's my expert level commentary.
I love it. And also, it's funny, a lot of the cards that maybe matter against Animate Dead are colorless.
Yeah.
The Lotus Petal and the Mox, so.
And there's an Otawara in play. How many? There is 2 copies of Otawara in Catra's deck, so there is a second copy of that available, along with an Aether Spellbomb, and like you said, the Haywire Mite that's already in play. If we can find a copy of Lotus Petal at the top.
Catra knows that Fae are not dead. And Lotus Petal, boom!
Okay.
Boom!
All right. In the game. So we can go sacrifice that main phase, gain 2 life, go to 12. Unfortunately, doing it main phase means that you can't double block unless we're playing a spell. Because I was going to say you could go double block with Monitor, Haywire Mite, crack the Mite, or double block the Grief, then crack the Mite, and then the Thought Monitor would still trade with the Grief. But it looks like we're going to go ahead and deploy a Mishra's Bauble. And all right. Yeah. Okay. Once the main phase Thoughtcast makes sense.
Yeah. I think there's also another Thought Monitor in hand. Another Thoughtcast for sure. Draw 2. And this is big for Catra. Catra doesn't have a ton of ways to answer these creatures once they're in play, like Aether Spellbomb, we have mentioned in Dewara, 2 of them. So Catra could be trying to draw to those, and if can unsummon the Atraxa, would be in a good spot here, as Lotus Petal and Mox Opal are the plays. We're counting our number of artifacts. I believe we get to play a Thought Monitor here, which lets us chump block against Atraxa.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, Mason. I actually think Catra might be favored now.
Yeah, they have drawn so many cards, and I think it's very close. If it's not favored, very close. I will say this: it really makes you wonder about the Archon of Cruelty.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. Because if you Archon, Catra has to sacrifice the Thought Monitor because the only out at that point is Haywire Might on the Animate Dead. So you're not allowed to sacrifice the. And we found the Aether Spellbomb too.
Oh my goodness!
My God, Mason.
Yeah, Catra. Where's the advantage bar? Over in that direction. As Raja did, get to draw 6 cards off of the Atraxa, but Emissary plus Spellbomb is a really good way to take over this game for Catra, and I think Catra knows it, as we are going to see a pop in the Mishra's Bauble. Raja not going to show us this time. Hates fun.
Yeah, I think Emissary Spellbomb might just be a hard lock.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Raja can do to stop that outside of overwhelm the board with big creatures, but it's so hard to overwhelm the board with big creatures right now. It requires double Exhume.
Right. Yeah, or get into a spot where you can put multiple Archons onto the battlefield. There is an Archon in the graveyard. That probably has to be step 1 for Raja here. If we can find another copy of Reanimate spell, get the Archon onto the battlefield, make Catra sacrifice, I guess, a Thought Monitor, which is pretty meaningless. You kind of want that in the graveyard anyways with the Emissary, so who even cares if you're sacrificing that? Yeah, this is a really, really tough spot here for Raja.
Raja with the Unmask is just Emissary and a bunch of land, so Catra, half of Fae draw spells were kind of the same. Oh, we're going to flashback Looting.
Yep, we're going to go towards Looting, but you can't even cast Reanimate here, so you'd have to find Mana Source plus 2 mana Reanimation spell to be able to get back the Archon. Yeah, I'm really wondering if Raja maybe just hadn't. Did spend a lot of time thinking about that turn, but I wonder if maybe was thinking about Catra's outs in different ways, where the outs to the Iona, because they're all colorless. Iona itself doesn't actually turn off any of the outs to it.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think Raja just went so deep in the tank and just did not double check some stuff along the way, / maybe just said, listen, if you draw one of those things, I lose. I think this beats enough of those things, right? It was sort of a situation where Catra needed to draw one of I think 11 cards, which is not bad, but cutting off blue is very strong too. So looks like Reanimate and Atraxa are the discards. And I think you have to attack with Grief.
Yeah, get that in there. Pretty easy block here from Catra because you kind of want one of the monitors in the graveyard. I don't remember if there's already one in the graveyard from a prior discard spell, but you would, if there isn't, you would kind of want one in the graveyard to be able to fire off with the Emissary, kind of start churning through cards that way. And
I think that's what Raja was trying to bait, because I think Catra can actually just attack Raja down to 3. And the game is almost over, and we just pick up the spell bomb, and it will be very hard to actually defend from
That's a good point.
The Thought Monitors.
Yeah, you could just go attack for 4, put Raja to 3, flashback the spell bomb, and Raja almost has no outs at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Catra thumbing through the graveyard. I have to imagine, look like we're going to go ahead and eye that spell bomb. It's definitely the premium target here.
Let's see what's going to be brought back. Looks like it is going to be... Oh, it's an expensive card. Oh, it's Chalice.
Oh.
Just Chalice on 2 because Reanimate can't get anything. This stuff's Animate Dead and Exhume. Catra, solid play there. I didn't even realize there was a Chalice in the yard. That's way better than we were talking about. Now we have to attack for 4. Raja's dead on the next turn. I think Catra might be into our top 4.
Yeah, I think Raja's drawing dead because the only outs to Chalice are 2 mana, right? Wear, Tear, and Serenity, as we talked about this before. Both of those are now offline, so you can't remove the Chalice from the battlefield. You can't cast Reanimate because you're at 3 life, and you're facing down lethal. I think Raja's drawing dead at this point.
Yeah, I think Raja just has to cast an Exhume and hope that Catra forgets the Chalice trigger, which Fae have not this entire game.
Eyeing up 2 mana. I think you're right. I think it's time for a good old chalice check.
Yeah,
Yeah, scratching the beard. I know this motion. All right.
yeah. Yeah, I can't help but think Archon also would have gained us 3 and put Catra down 3. The whole game is so different.
Right, because Catra would have lost the Thought Monitor, because like we said, Catra kind of has to keep the Haywire Met in play, given that the only out for Catra would be to rip a green source to be able to pop the Haywire Met, blow up the Animate Dead, which is what happened. So you make Catra sacrifice the Thought Monitor. Maybe that means that they don't have enough artifacts in play to be able to fire off a Thought Cast, and maybe that turn goes completely different. Like you said, Raja would be at 6, could have maybe bought an additional draw step. A lot of different things could have happened that game.
Yeah, and then Catra attacks everything, and that extended. Congratulations to Catra, moving on to our top 4. Roger Sulaiman out at top 8 there after a wild match. Devin, we have had some absolutely crazy ones here. You can tell the lights are out here because it's the darkness. There's just so much going on in that game.
I know that game was that game was so crazy to watch. Congratulations to Catra, played incredibly well that game. That is what we call, Mason, playing to your outs.
Yes, and Catra played incredibly well. Should be proud of that. Let's pull up our top 8 playoff bracket and let's get into our semifinals as well. I'll give you the update here. So Dustin Death Shadow defeated John on Death and Taxes. We had the run back from the Swiss and won there. Win has won with Golgari Control. So it's going to be Demir Shadow versus Golgari Control in the top match. Then Chris Smith defeated Chris Dieter. The lack of an H didn't stop Chris here with Mono Black Combo versus Mono Blue 8 Cast. And we were talking about this. Chris Smith was kind of the nightmare matchup for both Raja and Catra. Main deck Leyline of the Void, main deck Karn the Great Creator, a combo kill. Not great here. And that's the matchup we're going to be playing here. I'm unsure which one we're going to be watching, but I think we'll probably have our players ready to go here in just 1 second.
Absolutely. Yeah, just an amazing top 8 so far. It's actually kind of funny that Chris Smith, Chris without the H, is the one that actually has the Helm of Obedience. So, that's maybe a lore fail.
That's true. Yeah, we're going to take a break real quick, give those players a minute to go use the restroom, and we'll be back. So click the follow button that we don't miss anything. We'll be back in just 2 minutes.